Now, this is going to be a pretty busy slide, but basically what we're going to be doing is taking an original sine wave input, putting it through some of these effects, these overdrives and distortion, and see what happens on our viewer on the bottom right hand corner, which is a spectral viewer. Basically what it allows you to do is see what kind of overtones and harmonics are thrown off as we take this original sine wave and place it through these effects. Remember, sine waves only have fundamentals, they don't have any harmonics. So let's start out with the original sine wave. As you can see, there's the fundamental, there's no harmonics at all. Let's drop in an overdrive and see what happens. Now you can see we have a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth harmonics, and they go down in volume. Let's go over to the two burner. That tends to be more even order harmonics, and the harmonics are louder in that case. Let's go over to the absolutely balls out distortion. Ton of harmonics, you can see that, and as we add more drive, it tends to accentuate the odd orders rather than the even orders. But there's the harmonics are louder, and there's lots more of them. Is it any surprise now that we crave that rich sound of a tube amp or that particular tasty overdrive or distortion pedal? When you start to distort a waveform, it starts to throw off all that good stuff. It's actually hilarious how the holy grail of early guitar amplification was just to cleanly make a guitar louder to compete with the rest of the band. Distortion back then was the enemy, but once the guitarist started to hear all the richness of certain types of distortion, we were hooked once and for all. Now, there are certain types of distortion that sound better than others, and we'll look at that in detail later. But now you know why distorting a guitar signal, it's a good thing. Now, there's another part of tone that we'll come across, and that has to do with dynamics, which is how hard or soft we're playing. Even on an acoustic instrument like this, have a listen to not just the volume of how hard I'm hitting, but what happens to the tone when you hit the strings harder. So when you play it softly, has a deeper sound, more of the fundamental. You hit it a little bit harder, more of those harmonics. The more you play it back here, the more those harmonics tend to ring out. Now, you can, in an electric guitar, you can start varying your dynamics, obviously just by your playing, just as we were just demonstrating a moment ago. But also you can do things like, say, a volume pedal, or even adjust your dynamics automatically with things like a compressor and a sustainer. On electric guitar, we also have the ability to, like we said before, we can move our pickups to accentuate more of the back end, which will give us a lot more harmonic content. And we can even roll off frequencies using the tone control, either in passive circuits like this or active circuits. And finally, we have modulation. Now, modulation is just changing a parameter, a part of your sound, and we basically have volume, pitch, and tone, right? And if you were to use a modulation, that means you're tweaking a parameter, something about the pitch, the volume, or the timbre of your sound. Like a good example would be a wah-wah pedal. You're modulating with your foot back and forth. When you put that trundle back and forth, basically what you're doing is you're sweeping a boosted frequency right across the band to get to just accentuate that wah kind of effect. You can do that manually. You could move a knob with your hand, but your hands are normally pretty busy. So a better way to do that is to use an LFO. And LFOs are basically like a waveform that will modulate one of these parameters for you. We'll go through all of this, but a good example is, say, a chorus pedal or something like that. Chorus pedal is a very short delay, and that delay time is swept back and forth. So it's a longer delay, a shorter delay, longer delay, shorter delay. And when you put those delays together, you get a very, very rich sound. We'll get into a whole bunch of that. But before we do that, let's get into everyone's favorite subject, which is guitars.